Joined now by Director of Scouting Craig Butt and OverDrive's Bryan Hayes. And Craig, let's start with you. You've had the task of building several NHL rosters. If you're Brad Treliving, how do you change Toronto's DNA for the better?
Well, I think that the first thing you got to do is you got to make sure that everything is on the table. Nothing can be off the table when you're trying to make such a significant change to the Toronto Maple Leafs DNA. Because the DNA that they currently have in place is one that can't find a way to be successful when it matters most, when the fight is the hardest, when the challenges are at the greatest. So you got to put everything on the table. Hey, listen, Brad Treliving traded Matthew Tkachuk to the Florida Panthers. I'm not saying he did that nilly-willy or he did that without some reservations, but that's the type of thing that you make if you're Bill Zito to improve your team. And if you want to improve your team and you want to change the DNA in a significant way, you don't fiddle with the dials. You don't do it on the outside. You do it right where it matters. Because right where it matters is where it hasn't happened. And until you change that, nothing's going to change.
Yeah, and Treliving spoke on that countlessly today, right? The slimmest of margins. We're talking about the biggest games, the biggest moments, and how comfortable these guys can be and actually perform. And I think when we think of the DNA change, of course, we're going to focus on likely the bigger players that could leave, and we'll get to that momentarily. If Marner leaves, if Tavares leaves, yes, that will naturally lead to a DNA change. But I think Brad Treliving is also talking about and has to focus on the guys who are going to stick around, right? Austin Matthews is your captain. He's been here for a long time. He doesn't get it done in the biggest moments. Maybe his DNA has to change in some capacity. William Nylander gets paid a lot of money, scores a lot of goals. I didn't see him doing anything down the stretch. He might need to do something with his DNA. So it's not just simply, okay, those guys are leaving, so our DNA is different. The guys that are staying, they might have to adjust theirs as well. That's on Treliving, Berube, and the players to figure out how they can do it.
Yeah, you mentioned Marner there, Brian. I want to follow up on that. We know the club is trying to say all the right things, right? But is what they haven't said more telling here about Mitch Marner?
I think so. I mean, ultimately, Treliving pointed this out. We all know it. Mitch has a say in all of this. And I think there is a way in terms of a PR spin where they don't bury him on the way out, where he leaves by his own decision, and they don't really have to answer for it. There's also a negotiation element to this, I'm sure that they're thinking of, where they don't want to tell Marner and the rest of the league, we're dying to keep this guy, and then his camp takes it to the rest of the league, and all of a sudden everyone's got to pay that much more money. So, yes, I thought he held his cards relatively close to his vest, Craig, understandably, but that's really the big piece we're talking about here. Tavares, and I did take that out of his conversation today. Maybe Tavares goes too. But Mitch Marner, that's the guy that we're going to be focused on the next month here in Toronto, and I think the rest of the league will once we get closer to July 1st.
Mitch Marner's been a top-notch player in the National Hockey League for years. First-team All-Star right winger, Selke Trophy finalist. So much gets focused in on the playoffs. And you can extract one player and just say, oh, he's the reason to the blame. It goes back to the DNA question. It's not one player, it's a group, and they don't have enough of what it takes. Mitch Marner, you're not going to replace him. But if you're trying to look to how do you change the DNA of your team, then you have to consider not having Mitch Marner. And the bottom line is when you think about Mitch Marner and you think about what they don't say, well, they can't say anything. They have zero control over anything that Mitch Marner decides to do. And I think they've resigned themselves to that fact. And understandably, knowing that, hey, where are we going to find that type of a player? They're not going to find that type of player. But this is not about one player. This is about what you have to do to improve your team, to give your team a better chance to meet the challenges when it's the hardest, and that's the Stanley Cup playoffs. And when you look at it in its overall context, it's not just singularly about Mitch, but this is an opportunity with the situation that Mitch Marner finds himself in as a pending UFA, where now you can go about your business knowing he's not coming back, and what do we have to do to make our team more competitive?
Well, guys, if this is it for Mitch Marner's time in Toronto, he leaves ranked 5th in franchise history with 741 points in 657 games.